Hey everyone, happy Sunday and welcome into our latest Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and today we're going to dive in once again to the biggest developments for the week in the cannabis industry for the week of February 24th. It's been a huge week with major earnings reports coming in from GTI, Trulieve, and Verano, along with other key players in the space. On top of that, we've got some wild numbers coming out of Germany regarding the explosive growth of their medical marijuana program. Lots to unpack, so like I usually do, let's dive into it. First up, we kick things off with Green Thumb Industries, the first of the major multi-state operators to report their Q4 and full year 2024 earnings. And let me tell you, the numbers did not disappoint. GTI's Q4 revenue came in at $294 million, marking a 5.8% year-over-year increase. Full year revenue hit $1.1 billion, up 7.8% from 2023. They also posted $98 million adjusted EBITDA, $13 million in GAAP net income, and ended up the year with $171.7 million in cash reserves. Well done. Perhaps the biggest highlight, they repurchased $43 million worth of shares in 2024 and maintained 53.7% in gross margins and expanded by 240 basis points year over year. Again, wow. So why is GTI stock still down nearly 50% over the past year? Despite these solid numbers, the broader industry is still struggling with price compression, regulatory uncertainty, and capital market headwinds. But make it no mistake, GTI remains one, if not the strongest MSO out there. AKA, GTI is built different. Next up, another cannabis giant, Trulieve, who also delivered a solid Q4 in 2024 earnings. Revenue for the quarter hit $301 million, up 5% year over year, while full year revenue landed at $1.2 billion, with 95% coming from retail sales. Kim Rivers knows retail. Trulieve also reported record cash flow from operations, $271 million, a key indicator of financial stability. Gross margin improved significantly to 62%, up from 54% in Q4 2023. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite reporting a net loss of $155 million for the year, Trulieve managed to narrow its adjusted net loss to just $19 million once one-time charges were excluded. Another key takeaway, Trulieve expanded aggressively in 2024, opening up another 33 dispensaries, bringing their total footprint to 225 locations nationwide. They also launched adult use sales in Ohio and introduced a new hemp-derived THC beverage called Onward, as Kim Rivers likes to say. So what does this all mean? While Trulieve is still working through debt and restructuring, its retail dominance and strong cash flow put it in a powerful position moving into 2025. Take note, everyone, you're starting to see GTI and Trulieve spread from the pack. Next up, Verano Holdings, who was the third major MSO to report this week, and their numbers were a mixed bag. On the downside, they reported a net loss of $273 million for Q4, up sharply from $77 million in losses last year. Their revenue also dropped to $218 million, down from $237 million in Q4 2023. But there is a silver lining. Verano still posted a 49% gross profit margin and $63 million adjusted EBITDA, proving they can generate cash flow. For the full year, Verano's total revenue was $879 million, down 6% year over year, with a net loss of $342 million, though. That's a number that can't be ignored. So what's next for Verano? Investors are looking at how they manage their debt and whether they can sustain profitability in 2025. The stock's performance will likely depend on their ability to improve margins, stabilize revenue, and navigate federal reform efforts. A few other notable reports from the week. Cronos Group saw Q4 revenue jump up 27% to $30.3 million, with full year revenue up 35% to $117.6 million. MTL Cannabis reported $25.6 million in revenue, an 8% increase, but net income dropped $1.2 million compared to last year. Also, High Tide, they're still eyeing the German market, but their acquisition plans for PureCan GmbH remains uncertain. Not much more I can tell you about the story at this time, but we'll keep you updated. Look, there's a lot of momentum in the space, but the real story is the widening gap between top-performing MSOs like GTI and Trulieve, versus companies struggling to find stability. Next up, one of the biggest stories of the week comes out of Germany, where medical cannabis is absolutely exploding. Over the last 11 months, Germany's medical cannabis market has tripled in size from 250,000 to nearly 800,000 registered patients, putting it on par with Florida's $2 billion medical market. But here's the kicker. Germany has 84 million people, while Florida only has 21 million. That means massive untapped potential as more doctors start prescribing cannabis. The growth is driven by the country's decision to remove cannabis from the narcotics list, making it easier to prescribe for doctors and access for consumers and patients. With an estimated 9 million Germans already consuming cannabis, the shift to the regulated market could be a massive opportunity for global operators. Plus, pricing-wise, the regulated market is cheaper than the illicit market, so keep your eye on players operating in the German market. Now, I know some people are worried about Germany's recent election results and whether the new government will roll back cannabis reform. My response to that? Don't be. Here's why. Germany's political system requires a coalition government to pass any bill. Right now, the CDU, which has opposed legalization, will have to work closely with the German Social Democratic government, and they fully support the current cannabis model. So long story short, it doesn't look like Germany's cannabis framework is going anywhere. If anything, with the industry's rapid growth and cost savings in healthcare, the government will likely keep things in place rather than dismantle a system that's already proving to work and proving really well. Now let's move to business in individual states where Ohio's new adult use market is already seeing major price drops just 5 months after launching. The average price per gram has dropped 27.6% from $9.40 at launch to $6.80 in January. Edible prices fell by 17% and vape oil prices declined 11%. So why does this matter? Lower prices are great for consumers, but squeeze MSOs' profit margins, especially companies with large footprints in the state like GTI, Trulieve, and Curaleaf. Also in news, the cannabis company, which many of you have reached out and asked an update on the company, well, they made headlines this week by extending its senior secured notes to 2028. This now buys them time to stabilize operations, but the restructuring means issuing new equity to bondholders, diluting existing shareholders. Now look, I know some of you are probably disappointed that there is dilution involved in this, but what's the alternative? Now, with time being bought, the most important thing to watch for when it comes to the cannabis is how they manage their time and how they plan to execute between now and 2028. Early consensus on the street is it's a positive one. So, hope to have more updates regarding this company and get the management team back on here, the Traded Black podcast, here the new future, to find out more on what's next for this company. Good job by the cannabis this week. All right, let's now move to the political front where there's movement in a few key states. Pennsylvania, 70% of voters support adult use legalization, and Governor Josh Shapiro has included cannabis revenue in the state budget. Now, this is interesting. However, there are Republican pushback, and this could be delayed when it comes to legislation. Next steps, expect lots of negotiations, and they will be contentious, but it's important because a lot of attention is being allocated to this topic, and with cannabis revenue already included in the governor's state budget, this is an encouraging sign. So things are about to get real in Pennsylvania. Next up, Wisconsin, where a Republican lawmaker is warming up to medical marijuana, potentially making it the 40th state to legalize medical cannabis. That would mark a big moment. 80% of states would then have legalized medical cannabis. Times are changing, to say the least. Next up, let's now move to the nation's capital in Washington, where Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman continues to push a federal legalization petition, rallying support for reform in Washington. With election season heating up, the next 12 months could be a turning point for federal and state cannabis policy. Look, Senator Fetterman, why not just sponsor the SAFE Banking Bill? That would be a nice incremental step, and really what we really need right now. So that's it for this week. To sum it up, earnings season is showing us who's thriving and who's struggling, while Germany's market continues to grow at a rapid pace. Well done. Also, Ohio prices have dropped, but according to Trulieve CEO Kim Rivers, she believes this is all part of the process and things will work out in the long run. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Look, a big thank you to all of you viewers for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us here at Traded Black for more in-depth coverage on the cannabis sector. One last thing, make sure to scan this QR code and become a daily baked-in newsletter subscriber delivered to your inbox weekdays, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, giving you all the latest information on the business side side of the cannabis industry. Have a great rest of your weekend, everyone. We'll see you all next week. Stay informed, stay connected, and stay open-minded. And I'll see you next time on the TDR Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.